So thank you all for coming to our first virtual Philadelphia Tableau user group. Let me double check to make sure I'm not on mute myself. There we go. This is different, probably not what any of us expected, but we're going to do our best to make the most of it. And one really cool thing is that it's easier for us to get speakers who don't want to come to Philadelphia. Normally, we can get them to come and visit us virtually. So just wanted to share with everybody that I've asked for some help. So we're expanding the Tableau user group leadership team. Got BK, Ghafar, Laura, Brian, Tamor, and myself. So that means that there's a lot more people that are super excited about this group and to keep it happening and move it forward, elevate it. If you want to get more involved, certainly just let me know. But I'm so excited to have all of them join me. We'll get into more about everybody and sort of who they are and what they represent over time, and we'll build on that. But just know that means that there's a lot more energy that we can kind of put into the relaunch. And we miss our friends like Corey Jones and others, but we know that they'll probably be here and there joining us whenever. But ultimately, the burden isn't for them to always try to make it if it's kind of not that local and things like that. I don't have Corey on. Corey, you're not on, right? I don't see him. He couldn't make the drive all the way to the virtual meeting, I guess. So, I kid, Corey. I kid. So tonight we've got tons of content, several featured public authors, and then IGNX will feature some new Tableau features. We're thinking about trying to interject some like common kind of themes, like new features that we can maybe have almost every meeting, or introduce some other pieces too. We're going to think about some ways to get your feedback after this. We'll probably send out some sort of survey, so look forward to that. And I guess we'll just go ahead and let JR take it away. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're working on. And maybe this is a good time to make sure you can screen share.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's test things here. All right. Can you all see my screen? Can you all see my screen okay? Yeah? Yeah, perfect. All right. So a little bit about myself. You're seeing the presentation, right? No like weird elements or anything like that? Good to go? All right, cool. So yes.
I just want to jump in real quick, just because I think I'm required. Just want to let everybody know that this session is being recorded. So if you have an issue with that, now is your time to leave the room, but it is automatically being recorded. Just want to make sure that we all understand and acknowledge that. All right, sorry for the interruption. Take it away, JR.
No worries at all. Yeah, so I'm J.R. Copreros. I'm a newly minted Tableau public featured author last month. I joined the Tableau community early in 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 lockdown situation, but I'm so glad I did. I discovered essentially my tribe, my people, and I come from a very non-data background. So I'm actually an accountant. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, and ever since I started posting my vids on the community, people have always asked, why am I, how did I get to the point that I am at today, and what relation is there to my journey as an accountant? So the concept that I'd like to share with you today is not so much a formula, but more so the principles that I've been able to live by and that I've held on to that have led me to where I am today. And a lot of you may have heard this before, but it's about the notion of connecting the dots, looking backwards. So hopefully, as I take you through my journey, you'll be able to pick up some key takeaways and tips that hopefully you'll be able to apply to your own data visualization journey.
JR, so we are seeing your content on two screens.
Oh.
I think there's a way to flip the presenter piece.
Yeah, let me just see here. Let me just fix that. There you go. Is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thanks for that. Sounds good. So, quick agenda. I kind of talked about myself earlier. Then we'll do a visual look into my journey, and we'll end up with key takeaways and tips. So just a little facts about myself. So I'm a CPA as mentioned, but I currently work now in analytics, in business intelligence and analytics at PwC, where I manage a small team there. I am Canadian, but I was born in the Philippines and I grew up in Indonesia. And a lot of this will make sense soon. That's where a lot of my interests really started to form. Then, yes, as I mentioned, I was a Tableau public featured author very recently as of August 2020. So really the crux of where all this started, back in 2010, I came across this YouTube video from Steve Jobs that said of how he recounted the story of how he audited a calligraphy class while he was in college. And if you've seen this video, he'll later say that this class he actually credits to have been the experience that was the inspiration behind Apple's beautiful typography that's woven in all of its products. So this led him to say that, looking back in his life, that you can't really connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future and that you have to trust in something. So this was me looking at this in 2010 and be like, all right, I'm still pretty young, have no experience. Who knows when I'll come across this code again. And lo and behold, my life has been like a whirlwind since then, coming from accounting. So I'll take you through the journey of how I connected my dots. So to do so, I'm going to use the aid of a concept that's from Japan called Ikigai, which stands for purpose and reason for being. And I'm going to use this to coin a data visualization term. I'm going to use this to encode my dots, so to speak. So a red dot will signify what I love to do. Purple will signify what I'm good at. Gray, what I can get paid for. And yellow, what the world needs. And a triangle along my journey will be a life event or milestone, like moving countries and whatnot. And according to this Ikigai principle, the convergence of these three dots becomes your purpose or reason for being. And hopefully through my journey, you'll be able to see how I've been able to make these dots connect. So my journey so far, as mentioned, when I was a kid, migrated to Jakarta from the Philippines when I was very young. Back then, lived in primarily closed neighborhoods, so the majority of my free time was really spent indoors. So I was really forced to cultivate interests and activities that were more individual-centric. So naturally, I was drawn to a lot of creative activities like arts and drawing. Then over time, being an introvert, I really gravitated towards video games, but not necessarily the ones that were very competitive. I was more attracted to the storytelling aspect of RPG type games. Then I really got into Legos for some reason, and not just any Legos, but Lego bots. For those of you who are not aware, Lego has this, I guess, suite of Lego products or kits called Mindstorms from back in the day, where it was essentially, the hardware was Lego, but they had a software block that was created by the guys from MIT. And you can essentially create robots out of Legos. And for some reason, I was really drawn to this and just really start to get a knack for building things that were automating. As my childhood came to a close, I got rid of my childhood interests and eventually moved to migrate to Toronto when I was just a teenager. And moving to a whole new country, I was in for a massive culture shock, right? Coming from a predominantly a Southeast Asian culture. But one thing I knew was clear was Torontonians, especially kids in school, they love basketball. So I thought to myself, all right, how can I think to me, I saw the quickest way for me to integrate into this new community, into this new way of life was through sports and through basketball. So quickly learned it, picked it up, and started to get a sense of belonging. Not long after that, I came across a group of individuals who were really into graphics design. And I don't know if it was my early inclination towards arts and drawing, but I felt that this was an extension of that side of me. So I picked up any videos I can on learning Photoshop, Illustrator, and whatnot, and would actually go on to be quite decent at it to the point where I was getting asked to do business cards, posters, but all for fun. Then while I'm in Canada, I came across a wonderful church community and really found my faith through that. And through that church community, I actually found a passion for music and performance, and would continue to hone that throughout my years. Shortly after, in school, I found myself really succeeding in accounting class. And I don't know if it was the fact that my parents were both accountants and it was just in my blood, but I didn't necessarily love it, but I was good at it and I was getting good grades. So I thought, you know what, let me explore this area and see if it's viable. And fast forward to my university years, I discovered that, hey, accountants can get paid well, so might as well stick to this and see how things go. And over time, I would continue to play basketball as a way to connect to my community and work on my music, and I would get involved in the gospel choir at my university as a way to keep that passion alive. And I also got involved as a media director for my accounting association. So throughout time, I tried my best to kind of keep these ancillary passions alive, continue to work and get involved in church. And eventually, fast forward to my last year of university, I found that I was in a large group of people that were trying to get into these prestigious Big Four firms. And I thought, what better way to stand out than to try to integrate my interests? So using my graphics design knowledge, then I created a personal brand for myself. So I became known as the kid with the lime green business card. And literally, I would get referred to as the kid with lime green business cards anywhere I went. It doesn't really matter what my name was. They're like, yeah, you're the kid that gave me the lime green business card. But to me, that was the way to get noticed and to get my foot in the door. And from there, I just had to sell myself when it came to my accounting acumen and whatnot. This also, my music performance actually also helped me to stand out from the crowd, just for someone who had more interest compared to other people in the group. So long story short, through the combination of my interests and my academics, I was able to get an offer and start my career at a Big Four firm called PwC. And the rest you might say is history. And through my church, I actually met my wife and we got married and continued to get involved in that. And this is when the dots start to connect for me. So I started my career as an accountant, as an auditor. And 3 years later, my wife and I decided to pursue life in a different country. And through my connections with PwC, I was able to move to Sydney. And by this time, I was already really comfortable with my career in audit. I felt that it was something that I loved, I was good at, getting paid for. And with my responsibility to the public as an auditor, I felt that I was doing what the world needed. But it was through this fateful move to Sydney that I discovered a group of people in my audit practice that were super passionate about analytics, automation, and data visualization. And this was really my first foray into the world of Alteryx, Tableau, Power BI, and whatnot. And using my audit background, I started to explore how can I integrate analytics, visualization, and automation to my day-to-day work. And soon that obsession turned into something that I just put my head towards and became really good at it. And eventually, I was good enough that I could transfer to this team of analytics and visualization experts. And fast forward to 2020, through a series of family-related reasons, we had to move back to Toronto. And it was not actually through my audit experience that paved the way, but through my analytics and automation experience, I was offered a role back in PwC Canada, where I work now. And at this time, felt really comfortable once again with my BI and analytics role. And as you all know, the COVID lockdown hit, and I needed an outlet for something more than what I was doing day to day. It was getting a little bit too business focused, and I kind of felt lost from a creative standpoint. And this actually will lead to my next point is whenever you feel lost, try to recount the things that you first love, right? So through public data visualization, I discovered the data fan community, and I started to see a stream of data viz work that spanned sports, music, social issues, and whatnot. And I knew that I had found something that was very, very interesting. So I decided to focus on this area, and in an attempt to become more proficient and good at it, I really sought to the social data challenges that are out there, from Makeover Monday, IronQuest, Sportsman Sunday, and whatnot. I'll leverage YouTube blogs, videos, attend virtual tugs and webinars such as this one. And lastly, when I felt I needed that boost, I sought mentorship, and I was fortunate enough to have received that over the last few months. And over time, this need for data visualization just got reinforced, especially in that COVID area where I feel data visualization really came to the forefront, as everyone was just visualizing anything that they can find on COVID data. And I realized that I had a sense of responsibility when it came to public data visualization as well. And all this connected over time, and 5 months later, I had the honor and truly humbled to have become a Tableau public featured author. And what really, and I guess my work started to feel not like work, but more like fun, as I was able to integrate a lot of the areas in my life that I thought were dead, but was resurrected through this public data visualization journey. So, long story short, what may seem like a series of unconnected or disjoint dots in your life, and especially in my life, actually ended up becoming a key part of my story. Take any of these dots away, and I probably would not even be where I am today, doing what I love day in and day out. So, and as you can see in my portfolio so far, really, most people will say that they lean towards a specific data set, but for me, because of my past experiences, whenever there's a sports data set, I'm game. Whenever there's a music data set, I'm game. When there's stuff on that's leaning more towards the creative or the data art side, I'm all for it. And I believe that my past experiences, not abandoning them, has really helped me thrive in this space. So, in closing, especially in this time where everyone's kind of working from home and social distancing, if you can, take the time to reflect on your journey and really do this exercise of connecting the dots looking back. And in doing so, you'll create a sense of gratitude and appreciation for process over end result. If you were to ask me when I started my audit journey 7 years ago that I would be doing data viz work today, I certainly wouldn't be able to guarantee that at all. Next, when you feel stuck or lost in your creative process, return to your first love and see how you can start to integrate it into your day-to-day. Zach Bowders, a Tableau ambassador, said it best in one of his talks, where you viz what you love and then you love what you viz, right? So find out what those things were that really interested you growing up. And more towards where I find myself now in a data viz career, it does not always start with passion, right? For me, it started with just adopting this craftsman mindset when it comes to my career as an auditor. And through that, I was able to establish a good reputation, and that good reputation and that track record allowed me to move to Sydney with the same company. And it was through that transition that I was actually able to discover data analytics. So you can't always plan or the future, but you can focus on the now and become so good that people can't ignore you, right? As Steve Martin famously said. And lastly, for more practical data tips, for those of you who are looking to just jump head in, embrace this amazing data community, find inspiration from others, and reach out for mentorship for that next step in development if you feel stuck. So with that, thank you so much for having me. And really enjoy being here today. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm more amazed by the content or the fact that you ended exactly on time.
Yeah.
Any quick questions for JR? I think he's got to head out, right?
Yeah.
So.
This is Sean. I had one really quick question. So your viz of the day, JR, had to do with criminal justice, and I was just curious. You're in Canada now. I was just curious what brought on that interest in that field.
Yeah. So what people don't realize is, and obviously I'm not black, but I come from a minority background. So racism is everywhere. And to me, what I realized was there was an opportunity here to shine a spotlight on something through data that was available. And I really felt that it was important to use my platform and my ability to work with data to tell a story. And I felt that this viz on exonerations really hit a note with me because it was something so grossly unjust that was happening. And I felt that it was an important story to tell, regardless of whether or not I was American or not.
Awesome, thanks.
No worries at all.
Okay. Any more questions? We'll start the bidding. No. Thanks, JR. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
This
Cheers.
is fantastic.
No worries.
All right, up next, we have another featured Tableau public author. Is it Dzifa?
That's exactly right. You nailed it.
All right, only because Ghafar mentored me. We've never met in person, but
yeah,
it's
likewise.
to have you here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Let me just share my screen, make sure that everything's going well. Okay, so you might see your faces here for a quick second. Okay, hide that. Alrighty, I'm going to assume you guys can hear me and see everything okay?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Ghafar, for asking me to present. I'm super excited to tell you all a little bit about how you can turn up your tooltips. So just to start off, my name is Dzifa Amexo, currently a senior at Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry, currently at home in New Jersey. So Philly is like right across the bridge for me, love it. I'm studying finance and data analytics, and I've just been so fortunate to just be really involved in the data fan since the beginning of this year. And it's just been such an amazing journey. So earlier this year, I was a Tableau public featured author. I recently had the opportunity to be a first round R&Viz judge, and now I'm a Tableau public ambassador, as well as a part of the Millennials in Data cohort, which has been absolutely amazing thus far. And so I say all that to say that I'm still starting my journey. Like, I've been using Tableau for maybe about a year and a half. So I'm still learning a lot as I'm going through all of this. But I just wanted to come here to talk to you guys today about I feel is one of the most underutilized features in Tableau, and that's tooltips. So I hope that whether you're in the beginning stages of your journey or you're a little bit more intermediate, you can pick up something or just kind of change your mindset when it comes to tooltips. Because for the most part, myself included, I would just usually like leave it on default and be like, or just turn them off, because who cares about tooltips? So to start off, I'm going to walk you guys through this. This is a really quick dashboard that we actually made for the Millennials in Data program, first week of the program. So very simple sales dashboard. You can see it's by region. And so as a user, you're interacting with this dashboard, you're seeing these tooltips pop up. And so just very basic for those of you who aren't familiar with what a tooltip is, it's basically just a way for you to add additional context to a viz without taking up valuable space on a dashboard. So it's really cool because you just hover over it and there's a great deal of interactivity. So typically, if you're going into like a workbook and you're exploring these tooltips, you'll see that it's just basically left on like the default view, which isn't necessarily bad, but in my opinion, you can like turn it up a little bit. So just to start off, if you go into the marks tab here, you'll see this is basically where all the action happens in terms of tooltips. So here you see the name of these fields and these field names, which are dynamic. And so if you wanted to add in, let's say you wanted to add in the discount field, you'd have to first add it either to your columns or your rows, or place it somewhere in your marks card. So let's say I wanted to add in discount, I'd place on the tooltip, and then now you see here, it's there. Just you guys can see that discount is there. And so here, one quick thing that I always like to do, takes 2 seconds, is just to line up your tooltips. So by just highlighting it and then moving this little cursor, you can line them all up. And you can just see within 0.2 seconds, your tooltips already look a little bit cleaner. And so along with that, you can, you know, like make it bold, change the font, take away things, a lot of jazz that you can do in there. And you can also, I like to use the preview tab just to kind of see what I'm doing. So this is okay. This is great. This is typically what most dashboard tooltips that I've seen. And personally, like sometimes when I make them, I just leave them basic like this. But I think that there's really a hidden power when it comes to tooltips. So you can really use tooltips to, in a sense, tell a story and really craft that narration. So for example, instead of just having category, sales, region just listed out, here is a sentence that says, in the furniture category, the central region had 50,000 in sales. So you can just automatically see, like, as a user who's interacting with this, it also depends on who your audience is. So for example, if you were making this dashboard for another analyst, this necessarily wouldn't be that applicable. But for someone who's not as familiar with Tableau or what this dashboard is about, I think this is a really great opportunity for you to kind of add some more context. So again, you can come into here. And the really neat thing that I like about tooltips is that it's so customizable. So you can I just typed in these words here. You can take away things, add in things. And one thing that I find is super helpful is that for these fields that are dynamic, instead of having to click and drag and highlight to like underline it or italicize it, you can just click anywhere in it and it'll make the change. So you may think that, okay, this is not special, this is not really useful. But let's say you have 50 fields and you want to customize each one of them. It's so much easier just to click in and change that. So that's something that I just recently stumbled upon that's really neat. And moving on, let's say you want to take your tooltips a step further and you want to, let's say you want to change the text. So let's say if it's a positive profit, you want it to be blue. If it's a negative profit, you want it to be red. You can conditionally format your tooltips. And so I'm going to do a really simple example. So you want to create a calculated field. Let's say that this will be our positive profit color. And essentially what I'm going to do here is just do a simple if-then statement. So if the sum of our profit is equal or greater than 0, then return, okay, return the sum of the profit. Okay, so, and end. Okay, oh, okay, I think it should be greater than or equal to. Okay, perfect. So then we're gonna do the same thing for negative. We're just gonna duplicate that to save some time. Edit this, negative profit, and then of course, flip the sign. Okay, so now we're going to drag, this onto our tooltip. So here we're gonna come in and you're going to see that we're gonna insert our profits, both of these profit fields right before the word profit. And so both of these are not gonna show up because if it's a positive profit, then it'll show. And if it's a negative, it'll show. It won't show both at the same time. But we wanna customize this to show negative to be blue and also bold, and then positive to be, let's say, green and also bold. Okay, and here you can see now that we have, of course, we can like format it to, instead of being negative, send the parentheses, but just for all intents and purposes. You can see that here it's blue font, here it's green font, green, green, green. So again, this is just a really simple way to kind of add in that like extra feature to make it easier on your end user. So I know, okay, this is blue, I know this is negative, and just really make that end experience better. And then moving on to the next thing. So let's say that this person that's using this dashboard isn't that familiar with Tableau, which I'm assuming in the workplace sometimes happens. So they're hovering over these tooltips and they accidentally click. Well, okay, this is what it should look like, but I'll show you what it would look like if you didn't turn it off. So let's say they're fumbling around and they accidentally click on this and they're like, okay, and they accidentally click keep only, and then this happens and they're not sure what to do about that. So that's the default setting on Tableau in terms of tooltips. What you can do is go into your tooltips and turn off this include command buttons. When you do that, you see that if you click on this, that little bar of options doesn't come up. So again, you're kind of just making that end experience easier for the user and allowing them to not run into any issues and making everyone's life easier. Okay, and then next I'm just gonna do a quick demo of like Vision Tooltip. This is not a new feature. It came out, I think, a few years ago before I was using Tableau. But it's really cool, in my opinion, to really just have like an overall view and then be able to drill down into a certain like subsector and show that. I'm just gonna do a quick demo on this. So basically, I have here a map of the states and their sales, and then I created another worksheet that has each state and the different sales by category. So essentially, it's just, I would like to show the state and the different sales per category. So instead of having to make two separate worksheets that I have on a dashboard, I could include a Vision Tooltip. So basically what you're gonna do is go to your tooltip in the sheet where you want the Vision Tooltip to be in. And then you're gonna go here to insert, and then you're gonna see sheets. And so I want the state sales by category. And so here you're gonna see this field, which basically is just a sheet name. And then the automatic dimensions are 300 by 300. I believe it can go up to 500 if you want to make it bigger. And then it's going to filter by all fields. So basically this is saying that instead of showing every single state in the state that I hover on, it's just going to filter it to the state that I hover. So if I hover over California, it's just going to show California instead of all the states. So here you can see this in action. I hover over Washington. You can see the sales breakdown by category. So this is a really easy way just to have that advanced interactivity and that ability to drill down without taking up valuable space on the dashboard. Okay, and of course, like Vision Tooltips is very basic. You can customize it, and there's so many different variations. Definitely go into the forums and just look up Vision Tooltips, and you'll find a ton of resources. And now I'm going to shift into another workbook. So this is a little behind the scenes, something I've been working on. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Project Power on Netflix. Absolutely loved it. 11 out of 10, I recommend. But basically, I was trying to make this viz where in the movie there are a ton of powers, and each of the characters have a certain power. So I wanted to make this viz that basically, if you were to click into the power, you'd see all the characters and which power they had. So I tried to do this. I had, this is, by the way, this is a template. The Fleur Lynch twins, if you don't know them, they are Zen masters and ambassadors, I believe, in the community. Super helpful. They have a ton of templates online. So I literally just downloaded the template and put in my data. They have a ton of blogs, very easy. But yeah, so I wanted to put this into the tooltip. So I put in the field that I wanted, the description of the power. I was like, okay, this is great. And then I went to hover over it and I get this star field. And I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Why is it showing up? So it's showing up because you have multiple values, and it can only like recognize one specific value, if that makes sense. So basically I went onto Google, which is the first thing I always do when I don't understand anything in Tableau. And then of course I wasn't the only person to have this problem. So a forum feed or thread came up, and other people are having the same problem. So I found that you could do this calculation that would allow you to put in the values, and I was like, okay, I don't like calculations, so what's an easier method? And someone was like, just use Vision Tooltip. And I was like, I thought you needed to do like a bar chart, or it needed to be like a viz. And they're like, no, just do a crosstab or a table of whatever you want, and then input it, and it would appear as a Vision Tooltip. I was like, oh my God, yes, this is so easy. I'm lazy. This is the perfect solution. So basically what I did was pretty much just took what I wanted. So I wanted to show the name and then the description of the power. I took that, and instead of putting it in the tooltip, I created this whole worksheet. So basically what I did, to like long story short, you can just, if you want to, I guess, like just show text. What I do, there are like so many different ways you can look it up in a blog, but I just like to do the little 0 placeholder, and then you make this a polygon, and then you kind of just like hide the grid lines and everything. So long story short, I did that, and then I ended up with this. And so then I went back to where I wanted the tooltip in. So let's go back to that. And now I'm going to insert sheets and power description. Okay, and now that's that. So then I was like, okay, this is great, but I want it to be dynamic so that when you click on it, it changes. And so essentially what I did was I just added in a action to change the parameter. So let's go into this. So basically bar 2 is this right here. And the target parameter is what I wanted to change the power. And then this goes back to the bar. So then that, and as you can see, as you click on it, you just put it in present mode. As you click on it, you can see the different descriptions and the powers and things like that. So that is something that's really easy, an easy fix if you don't want to use a long calculation that to just like make the crosstab and then put in your vision tooltips. Okay, and then last but not least, this is probably my favorite use of tooltips. I just use a lot because I think it's super easy. Again, as you can see, I like things that are easy and useful. And it's basically the tooltip that's an info or help button. So pretty much what I do is just put in a little placeholder because it doesn't really matter, but okay. Clearly I did all this in advance, but I wanted to show you guys. But pretty much what you do is you put in the placeholder and then you want to make sure that it's selected to shape. And then you're going to go to more shapes. So this is your whole Tableau shape repository. Of course, you can include whatever like icon you wanted. You can change it to whatever you want it to be. You can import custom flat icons and all that jazz. So I'll usually choose whatever I want. So like a light bulb or something. And then I'll go into the tooltip and I'll put in like a description. So this is how you read this dashboard, like start at bar chart 1, or I don't know. But I just put in instructions. I really like to use this on Makeover Monday viz, which I know Ghafar is about to talk about. Love Makeover Monday, but if there's ever a Viz 5, which is a social initiative, and there's a lot of background information that I just don't want to include on the Viz because it'll take up too much space, I'll create a info button and just put all of the descriptions, like how to read that, put that in this little hover icon. And then what you do is you go back to your, you can see that here, you go back to your dashboard and you can just drag that in as a floating, hide the title. Of course, you'd format it and take away the little 0 and make that a little bit smaller. Go back over here. Okay, well, the idea was that, okay, let me format this so you guys can get the full effects. All right, beautiful. So yeah, then I put in the corner and then you'd see, once you hover, you'd see like how to read. And it's, so the other option you could do is a collapsible container, which I'm gonna plug another video. So T-Ho did a Viz Connect a few weeks ago on collapsible containers. That's also another great way to have that how to read or that information button. And so you just click it and then it collapses. So either that or this tooltip I find is super helpful. And again, this just all comes back to, if you don't take away anything from this talk and you know everything about tooltips, I would just say, try to think about your end user a little bit more. Like think about what will make their experience better, because when you really think about that, then the dashboard adoption is going to be better, because obviously if I'm having an easy experience, it's going to be great and I'm going to want to use this dashboard. So I think that's just the message that I want to leave you guys with. Put your end user first and make their life better. And if you do think you can turn up your tooltips, turn them up, because I think there's so much value. And this is just me scratching the surface of tooltips. There's so much more out there. So please take advantage of the tooltips. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that you took away one tip or learned something new, or just are gonna think a little bit more about how you utilize your tooltips. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm usually there. Now that school started, I'm not there as often, but that's definitely the best way to reach out to me, as well as on Tableau Public. And yeah, definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions, comments, you want to talk about Netflix shows. I'm definitely open for anything. And okay, I'm not really sure how pause share.
Dzifa, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Great presentation. Any questions for her?
Sorry, someone commented, Dzifa, your Tableau Public page is a testimonial to using Makeover Monday. Yes, it is. And if you go watch my Viz Connect, I talk about how bad my first Makeover Monday is. It really does work. The community is great. And I love Tableau. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for letting me present. I'll stay on for a little bit and then I have to go to class. But again, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for your time. This is fantastic. Ghafar, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see my screen okay?
We're good.
Awesome.
It's nothing but the screen.
So when I first joined the Tableau community, I never imagined how much of an impact participating in Makeover Monday would have on my professional growth. And ever since I joined the community, like Dzifa and JR had mentioned, I have had endless opportunities to network and learn from Tableau authors and be inspired by all the work that's out there. So hi everyone, I'm Ghafar Shah. I'm a data analyst at Comcast NBC Universal. I'm a former Tableau public featured author, and I graduated from Drexel University in 2018. And for this talk, I'm really excited to share how participating in Makeover Monday has really had a great impact on my growth in the Tableau community. I really hope that the story and lesson I'm about to share will be super helpful to the broader community. I'll start off with sharing a few of the Makeover Monday visits I started out with, and then lessons I've learned in the Tableau community. And finally, I'll close the presentation with some design tips that I found super helpful from feedback I received from the Tableau community and the data fam. So if you don't know what Makeover Monday is, it's a weekly social data project that's run by Ava Murray and Charlie Hudson. It gives you the opportunity to practice working with different data sets each week. You can create a Tableau public portfolio, which is completely free. And then once you create your Tableau public portfolio, you can start creating your visits on Tableau public. So the cool thing about being a part of the Tableau community is that you can share your work on Tableau public on Twitter using the hashtag #MakeoverMonday. And there's plenty of opportunities to receive feedback from the Tableau community and through a live viz review webinar that's hosted by Ava and Charlie. And this is all 100% free. So the first lesson I want to share is, practice makes perfect. When I started out in Makeover Monday, I was honestly hoping my first attempt would be a winning viz. But unfortunately, there's no secret to being a great designer. Growth can be scary when you're starting something new, but you do need to start somewhere. So here's a look at my first Makeover Monday viz. It was my first time using a hex map, and from a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being really excited about this viz, I would rate my excitement level of 10. The reason is because it was my first Makeover Monday viz, and I actually got it done. So although it's not what I expected it to look like, it's still something I'm super proud of in the community. Here's a second Makeover Monday viz that I did in the community that looked at the number of bear attacks in North America from 1900 to 2018. And then finally, my third viz that looks at the average hours of sleep per day in America. 2 years later, here's a quick snapshot of what my portfolio looks like today. Now, if I were to compare a snapshot of my current visits with the ones I did 2 years ago side by side, you'll see the huge difference between the snapshots. First, I have far better designs and a more consistent style, and it just goes to show that practicing can really improve your data visualization skills. So currently, one of my favorite Makeover Monday visits that I did recently is where I looked at revenue and profits for Amazon. I'm a huge fan of the dark backgrounds, and using Amazon's orange for this viz really made the dashboard pop out more. Another one of my favorite Makeover Monday visits is a long form viz that I did that looked at the body measurements of 3 different penguin species at Palmer Station, Antarctica. Here I used no more than 3 different high contrasting colors for the scatter plots on a very dark navy blue background. So again, I'm showing you these visits is because, in the previous slides, is that one of my favorite mantras is don't give up until you're proud. I started out with the visits over to the left. And after consistently practicing through Makeover Monday, I was finally able to craft my own unique style and develop the visits like the ones over to the right, like penguins in the Amazon viz. It really does take time, but I can tell you this, that the results are definitely worth it. The second lesson I want to share with everyone is, your work inspires a community. So one of the cool things about being a part of the Tableau community is that not only are you learning, but everyone else is also learning from you. So here is a recent Maker of a Monday visit I did this year in 2020, where we looked at the world's wealthiest countries. And for this visit, I had to use drill down set actions. So Charlie, who runs the Makeover Monday initiative, had actually reached out to me after I shared this with the Tableau community. And he mentioned how he shared this viz at work with his colleagues. And I thought that was really cool because I'm here in North America and Charlie's thousands of miles away in the UK. And, you know, it just shows, it's a really great feeling when others are learning from the work you put out there. So not only are you developing your own skill set, but you're also teaching others in the Tableau community. And the third lesson I want to share is enjoy creating visits. So it doesn't always have to be Maker of a Monday. Come up with a topic you're passionate about. It could be movies, video games, or books. Me, I love watching TV shows. And I'm a huge fan of the TV show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And so I decided to create a viz looking at the average episode rating by season and episode rating per season for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So here, all the colors I used here are from the show. And I really try to give it that hip hop design style. I was super happy with the result and had so much fun during the process of making this visualization. So the point is, like, you know, if it's not Maker of a Monday, find a topic you love, you're passionate about, and build a viz on top of that, like how I did for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And my fourth lesson is, you know, try to go that extra mile. So outside of Maker of a Monday, you know, sometimes I ask these questions to myself as well is, have I written a data viz blog? Have I worked on a stretch project? Did I participate in Iron Viz? Am I a member of my local Tableau user group? Have I taken the Tableau certification? So checking off any of these items shows that you're taking the initiative to expand your network and improve your technical skill set, which are all critical to your professional growth. And finally, appreciate the community feedback. So I really love it whenever I receive constructive feedback on my work in the Tableau community. And it gives me the opportunity to improve my design and storytelling in the work that I share while also learning best practices. So here's an example. For this Maker of a Monday viz, I looked at trending fast food restaurants in North America in 2017. So I know that the viz is really hard to read, but over to the right, Kate Brown and Josh Tapley on Twitter, after I tweeted it, shared this viz on Twitter, had mentioned that it was pretty hard to read the axis labels. And it should always be horizontal. So I took their feedback into consideration and I transformed this viz into this. And this actually got Makeover Monday. This was actually my first Makeover Monday favorite after I took Josh and Kate's feedback into consideration. So here it tells the story that, you know, these snack restaurants, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Dairy Queens, these three restaurants had hit the $1 billion mark in 2017. I have nice clean white space, colors and annotations, and I highlighted just the bars that I wanted to create a story off of. So Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, and Dairy Queen. Another example is where I created a viz looking at the rise in high school female athletes. So for this viz, I had to use spark lines. But after I shared the viz on Twitter, Sarah Bartlett, who's also a Tableau Zen master, over to the right, had mentioned, you know, the spark lines didn't really help show the comparison between the sports categories. So baseball, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, tennis, like how are they trending over time? And it was really hard to compare those sports categories with one another. So the best use case that, you know, Sarah recommended was using a line chart, which I did. And now it's so much easier to compare the sports categories. There's a much clearer story to read off of. And then finally, the last viz I want to show is a Makeover Monday viz that looked at the car insurance rate in the USA. So over to the left, I had created a hex map, and it was my second time creating a hex map. Kevin Flerlich had reached out to me and mentioned that I should be using a vertically oriented hexagon instead of a horizontally oriented hexagon. So after taking, I didn't know that, but the slightest change made the hex map look so much better over to the right. And I thought that was really cool. So that being said, just to share my secret toolkit with everyone, the tools that I use is Tableau and Figma. Figma is entirely inspired by Chantilly Juggernaut. She has a really awesome YouTube video that she created going through all the Figma and how it works. So I definitely highly recommend watching that if you get a chance. The font that I use is Futura, and my recent visits. That's inspired by Judith Becker in the community. And my color palette that I recently started using is colorhunt.co. So just a quick lesson recap, practice makes perfect. Know your work inspires a community. Enjoy creating visits. It doesn't have to be just Makeover Monday. It can be anything that you're passionate about. Go that extra mile and really appreciate the community feedback. So thank you all so much for watching. You can follow me on Twitter. There's my Twitter handle. And thank you again.
Awesome. Great content, Ghafar.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ghafar? Just applause. Awesome. Well, Brendan, I think you're up next, telling us what's new with Tableau.
All right, so let's see. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good, good. All right. Guess I should probably hit the share desktop button at some point, shouldn't I? Feels like that'd be a good next step.
Good
All right.
logical progression.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Baby steps. All right. So thank you for that. As Josh said, my name is Brendan Sullivan, and I am a senior consultant at IGNX. A little bit about me as background. I attended St. Joseph's University for both undergrad and grad school. And I first started using Tableau while I was back at St. Joseph's for grad school, somewhere around version 6. I've been using a bunch of different BI tools, but primarily been using Tableau over the last 7 years. And really one of the big things, as a lot of people have mentioned so far, that I love about it is the community. The user community is solid. There's so much opportunity to kind of gain knowledge from other people. It's tremendously useful. And the community that we have here, the Philly community, is great. And it's been a while since we've actually gotten to hang out together. Since the last time we were together, there have been 3 major releases. There's 2020.1 in February, 2020.2 in May, and 2020.3, which was in August. So we're going to, over the next 15 minutes, go through 3 of the numerous enhancements and new releases that have come out in it. So we're going to cover relationships, dynamic parameters, and the export functionality that they brought in. So the first one we're going to go through are relationships. Now, relationships were introduced in 2020.2 and it's almost an enhanced form of a join in a way. So with a typical join in Tableau, you have data source A and data source B, and you tell Tableau that they should link together on a field. And so Tableau says, okay, great, I'm going to build a large data set that has everything from A and everything from B linked on there. With a relationship, you start by doing the same thing. You tell it, I have data source A and data source B, and they link on this field. But this time, Tableau will just kind of say, okay, I'm going to keep that in mind and only use it when it's relevant. The big advantage to this is that it allows Tableau to prevent duplication of values. It allows it to bring in less data that's not needed, and you'll end up with smaller extracts. But a lot of this is kind of a little bit vague, so let me step into an example real quick. So first, I'm going to start with 2020.1 before relationships. And so I have the Superstore data set, which is just your sample data set that you have. And I linked it to a file that I have that has populations by state, because maybe someone has in the Superstore set, they want to know what are the populations of the states for the sales. We get questions like that sometimes. So you have your state, your total population, which is 326 million, Excel tells me. So I bring this into Tableau, and I link the Superstore to the Excel document. I have it linked on state, bring it in, and I bring the population in, and it tells me that now there are 182 billion people in the US. Obviously, that's not right, because Tableau is now double counting the rows. Every row that has a sale in Pennsylvania, it's adding in the Pennsylvania population. We can fix that. That's just a simple level of detail calc. Fixed at the state, we're going to bring in the minimum population, so it only gets counted once. We bring that in, and there's your 326 million. That's in 2020.1. Then we take a look at 2020.3. Again, we're going to start with the Superstore data sets, and this time we're going to bring in the US population again. Now, one of the first things you notice is how that line between them is kind of squiggly. That's the noodle, as Tableau likes to refer to it. So we're going to bring that in, and Tableau says, here's what I think you guys want for the relationship, state to state. And yeah, that's what we want to have again. So we're going to bring this in. I'm going to bring in here. I'm going to bring in the population. And now, without even having to do a level of detail calc, Tableau knows on its own that each population value for each state should only be counted one time. So you end up with a value of 326 million right out of the box. Now, relationships are really powerful. I mean, you know, there's hour-long plus presentations just on relationships. So I'm not obviously covering everything about it, but just want to give a real high-level view of it. One of the really important things to keep in mind with relationships is that there are going to be a few small limitations out of the box. You can't link relationships to published data sources. You can't link relationships to on spatial fields. And one of the other things that Tableau recommends that if you want to do a extract that has, say, extract level filters or row level security, you should probably do a join so that you have everything in one large data set. Now, when we took a look in here, we saw that if you just drag things in, you get the relationship with the noodle. So how do you get to a join? You bring in something like orders, for example, and when you double click on it, it'll bring up a little box in here. You drag back in the population, and now you get your little join window again. So you can still have your inner join or pick whatever join you want. When you close this out, you'll see the little circles there so you know that this is actually doing a regular join, which will allow you to get some of the other functionality that you may not be able to have available to you with relationships. So the second one that we're going to cover quickly is dynamic parameters. Now with dynamic parameters, you have the opportunity to, when the workbook is opened, either on desktop or on the server, have a parameter list or a parameter value be determined at that time. So let's take a look at this one. Let's say that we have a, let's say we happen to have a file that has the population for the state of Pennsylvania by year up to 2019. We have a we have a Tableau thing with some parameters in it. Now they want to see the user. They want to see today's date, and they want to see all of the years from their defaulting to the current year, or the most recent year. So in order to bring in those fields, you need to have, you'll be able to open up your parameters, and there's a value when workbook opens. Now I have this set to current user. Let's take a look at that real quick. Current user is just going to be the username. You do have to create calculated fields for anything you want to have as your default value. Cur date is just today's date. Now, one quick note on cur date or on a date field is that when you return a date or time from the server, it's going to return the server's value. So you may need to do a little bit of an offset, say if you're doing it to Tableau Public or if your server is located somewhere else. And finally, for the year, we'll bring in the max of just the year that we'll bring in from the table. So we'll bring in the user. So the defaulted to the, it defaults to me because when I fire this up, it's starting off by saying, here I am. There's the current date. And then for the max year, for this one, we're going to bring in, because we want to bring in a list of values. Normally we would do fixed and add values from, and we just add the year. But for this one, we're going to say when the workbook opens, we want to bring in the population and we want to bring in the year. And we want that current value, but it's not there. And the reason why it's not there is because one of the requirements for a dynamic parameter is that it has to have the same value on every row in the data set. So doing something like max year, you actually could end up having a different max year depending on the filters that you have in there. So the easy way around that is you change this into a fixed calculation, go back to year, and then we'll change that to max year. And then just so that we know that I'm not cheating at all, change it back to some user, we'll change this to just another day, and I will save this, and then close it. And go into our Excel file, add in a value for 2020, and then we come back in and open it back up. Now what's going to happen is because this is the first time we're opening it back up, it knows that it's supposed to go out and find out who's the current user, what is today's date, and it's going to pull in the year list as well, and that's going to come up as 2020. So this could be really useful if you have something that has a parameter list of, say, locations or dates or anything like that. Right now, you have to go out and bring down the workbook, update the list, and then publish it back out to the server in order to have that updated. Whereas with this now, you can actually have that done on the fly when it happens. There are a couple limitations to what you have. One that I've noticed is that you can't set a range. So if you have a, oops, open this up. So you can't set the min or max to a range yet, at least not as a something that's going to default when it opens. The other thing that you can't do is, from what I've seen, is you can't set up a additional value to go onto a list. Sometimes you may like to put all at the top of a parameter list to allow someone to select everything that's in there, but the only way to have it default automatically populate from a value is if that value is in the list. So if the list that you are bringing in doesn't contain the text all, then you're not actually able to use all as one of those values there. But it is very useful. The other good use for it is security. You can have row-level security where you filter, where you show a individual and have them versus an entire population while still allowing people to use a parameter dropdown to view other people in that list comparatively. The final one to talk about is the export functionality. Now, Tableau has great export functionality when you publish things to the server. You publish it out there, and you go to the download button, and you can get the image and crosstab, PDF, PowerPoint. You can hit it, you can get multiple slides. We've seen that on the server before. One of the things they put in the new release in 2020.2 and 2020.3 is the ability to put in download buttons on the visualization itself. So within a dashboard, you go to the download, you bring in the download, and then you can say if you want that to be if you want the export button to function for crosstab, image, PDF, or PowerPoint. You can say if you want it to be a button or an image, you know, a few other pieces of functionality that you can have in there. Now, one of these will function a little different on the server, and I'll show you that momentarily. But you look at it and you say, well, if you could have that on the server already up here, it might not seem as useful. But if you do embedded analytics, when you have analytics that do not have a toolbar above it or below it, you could have the images in here. So now if someone is using this, they can actually download a PowerPoint from the embedded analytics. This will respect any security that is in place. So if a user can't download, say, the crosstab data while they're on the server, they're not going to be able to download the crosstab data through one of these buttons either. The security is still going to respect whatever settings that you had set up previously. So that really covers, you know, the three highlighted things that we wanted to talk about here. But there are three whole releases. I mean, this doesn't cover viz animations. It doesn't cover the in operator, which is great because now instead of having to say state equals Pennsylvania or state equals New Jersey or state equals Delaware, you can say state in Pennsylvania, comma, New Jersey, comma, Delaware. There's buffer calculations. There's new set controls that allow you to do a drop down to say if someone is in and out of a set, you can select them manually. Tableau Prep can write to databases now. There's enhanced licensing options. There's a ton of other stuff that's out there as well. So one of the big things that you probably want to do is take a look out there on the Tableau site. They have release pages that have all the features specific to the releases that are out there. So take a look at them, you know, give a little bit of playing around with them because there's a ton out there and really this is just scratching the surface. But, you know, hopefully you're able to take some of the stuff out there and start playing around with some of the things on the new functionality. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. Any questions for Brendan on new functionality? The one-on-one walkthrough of all the features. all 3 versions. That was really helpful.
Hey, Josh, it's
recommend metrics and more metrics. Go ahead.
hey, Josh, it's Bruce.
Bruce.
So at the risk of sounding self-serving, so if it's too self-serving, you tell me, but I've got a little this I put together with all these, with many of the, well, all the features that he talked about. So if people want to see a list of them and compare it, I've got it on public. I can share it here, but I've been more self-serving in even saying this than I really wanted to be. So you just let me know.
You can promote your goods. You're not charging us for them. So I think.
Oh gosh, no.
Paste your link in the chat for everybody, Bruce.
Okay.
That's a great point that you have a viz out there that tracks all the changes. Awesome.
So just pinged it, and you pick your public, prep and desktop. And if people have comments, because it really actually could benefit from a lot of what we saw today from our earlier presenters on the visual side of things. So that's actually, I've been inspired to go try to tighten it up a lot.
Great, sounds good. Maybe in the future we can do some polls to see what new features everybody are excited about or trying out, so forth. So awesome, great stuff, fantastic content so far. I know we're kind of nearing the end of this, and there's no reason to push it on any longer than it needs to be if that's the end of the content. But anybody who if you have a question, Tableau challenge or anything like that, we can give it a shot. I don't know how Tableau Doctor will work over open mic Zoom, but anybody bring any challenges tonight? And then with that challenge, have you tried restarting your computer and have you Googled it?
Has anybody run into having custom shapes as PNGs not show up in your public tool? I was spoiled, and with Josh's class, I had desktop tool from the beginning, but now that my free student license has lapsed, I'm stuck with, the public tool, which is great. But when I went and put a custom shape ping in my folder, Tableau imported it just as an empty circle. And I have a somewhat embarrassing viz that's really cool and fun on Tableau Public right now, but it could be so much better if it had those transparent shapes.
It's a good one. I don't know that I've seen that before. I've certainly experienced some issues with custom shapes in general, which makes me number them all now, because sometimes when I go to different spots and it picks up a different folder. But that one, I'm not sure. That feels like a bug, really. So I might try to download a new version of Tableau Public for desktop and see if that resolves it. It might even be worth emailing the Tableau Public team just to make them aware. It doesn't feel like a feature.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, anyway, it's open mic. Anybody can chip in if you think you have ideas on how to fix that. That feels like a bug. Yep, Chris said also download a free trial with the latest version. Although I suspect that David has already used his free trial. Anybody else?
About it.
Any questions?
Hi, Josh. This is Nitin here.
Hey, Nitin.
Hey, I have a specific, I won't call it use case, but it's an issue actually. So currently, I'm trying to work on global filter. For example, I have, let's say, 3 to 4 data sources, which I'm using as blend because those data sources are completely different from each other. So if I need to create, and most of those, almost all of them have the same columns, 3 to 4 columns, and I want those 3 to 4 columns as global filter. For example, if I select on one dashboard, if I select a particular, let's say, a country name, it should automatically appear in the second dashboard, and so on. I tried doing it with context filter as well, but what happened is if I make it as a context filter, and the other filters will take the value from the context filter, and it will that particular filter, the parent filter, will become will not have all the values, because I have to go back to the first dashboard and get all the values. So that I don't know how to explain that, but hopefully I will explain that much better next time that I have a workbook as an example.
Is it possible that you could, instead of like blending and going for that, if you were to use, if you were to identify the data sources as being related, and then using dashboard actions and applying to all related data sources?
Yeah, that's what I did. Use data, what do you call that? Use related data sources as on the filter. So wherever those columns are there, they are applied as filter. But the only issue which I face is if I let's say from country, if I take US and I have another filter, let's say states, and if I go to another dashboard, then I would be able to see only US in that country filter, because it's I have put that as a take values from context filter, and that context filter is in the first dashboard. So I have to go back in the first dashboard to clear my filters so that it will appear all the values in the second dashboard.
How about if you were to drive all that off of parameters instead of filters, and then use, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but basically the action that allows you to write one filter into a parameter somewhere else.
Yeah, we are using the older version of Tableau, so we are not there yet. So.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, that's tricky. Anybody else? Tamor, it looks like you're calculating in your head solution.
I'm not sure if I'm following.
Sorry, maybe next time whenever we have, I'll set up maybe I'll just put a question on the community forum, because today I found this kind of issue.
Yeah, I know that we've run across stuff like that in the past. It always feels a little tricky to solve, but maybe like a working example using like some store data or something just to demonstrate. I'm sure people have come up across it before, but yeah, the forums are probably a good spot for that. Awesome. Anyone else? It looks like we're starting to tail off. So again, let's end it on a high note. Thanks everyone. It was a fantastic night. Appreciate all the presenters and this great content. We're being recorded, so we'll have this to watch again. Hopefully this is all useful for everybody and make your lives better, and we'll make Bruce's viz better tomorrow. You'll be done by tomorrow, right, Bruce? All those updates in?
Yep. So
there we go. Awesome.
all the visual updates. The data is there right now.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Take care, and we'll see you all again soon.